Welcome. All right. So, Travel Talk with ShelbyLive. I'm so excited to have these incredible guests on board with us and on board. I'm always on board and in a cabin. Can't help it. Thanks so much for sharing with these people, because I think these days, especially travel during COVID, the stress of it, the nervousness, the fear, and just the truth would help a lot. And I think our experiences, we all went different places, we have different agendas, but I just really wanted some transparent back and forth. You guys can ask questions in the comments. If we have the beautiful Kelly, Lori, and Pam here with us today to share their travel stories, travel during COVID. So Kelly's our Canadian. And I think that's really a special part of the question is that we have, because, we have US and Canadian friends, and Canada travel and Canada situation is different. Maybe you could start with just telling us what you told me when you logged on, what your current Canadian situation is before you tell us the travel.
Well, it's regional like it is in the States, but here where I am in Manitoba, we're in basically a total lockdown. Everything's closed. We can only buy essential goods. We can only buy groceries and basic hygiene. They just made an amendment to the public health order that allows us to buy Christmas decorations and wrapping paper. Like, we couldn't even buy that.
Wow. So can I ask you a quick question on that? Because I'm sure people have. Did they just don't allow those products to be sold, or are they just taking those off the shelves, or how is that working?
They're not allowed to be sold, but you're limited to what they decide to offer on a curbside service. But in stores, it's like all specialty retailers are just outright closed unless they have some sort of curbside pickup type thing or delivery. The biggest complaint with everybody was, well, it's Christmas time. We can't buy Christmas decorations or wrapping paper. We couldn't find it online. It was crazy because we've already been in it 3 weeks now, and they just amended the order to allow us to buy certain things. And it's kind of crazy the way they made the rules. Like, you can buy a brush or a comb, but you can't buy hair ties.
Oh, boy,
they're very, very specific. And so the stores have been having a hard time, the ones that are open, like the Walmarts and things like that, kind of going, we don't know what we can sell or what we can't sell. You can't buy makeup. You can buy skincare products, but you can't buy makeup. Like, there's a lot of stuff like that. Like, and so it's hard for the stores, and we're in it for at least another 2 weeks because we're trying to control our numbers.
Okay.
Right. Well, technically I live in St. Thomas, but right now I'm in Arizona. So here in Arizona, we have a pretty rapidly climbing COVID positivity rate. So we are still open somewhat here in Phoenix, Arizona. St. Thomas is also under a lockdown. They've got the bars closed. But for the most part, people are going on their normal lives. I mean, we can shop and go do things. I can't believe that Canada is that bad.
And is it just Manitoba, or is it all of Canada? Maybe you don't know, but is it just Manitoba that's strict with what you can actually buy, or is
we're probably one of the strictest, but other areas are going to lock down, like in Ontario, which is the biggest, the most populous, in Quebec. Certain cities are on complete lockdown. Other areas, like they're varying it based on the region and the numbers. And honestly, some of it is political. So if you have certain political parties in charge, they're maybe not putting restrictions in place that others are. So you're dealing with that.
And so, Lori, right before I get to Pam, one question I do have about St. Thomas: are they allowing tourists? And
Absolutely. So they are allowing tourists to come onto the islands. You do need a COVID test 5 days in advance. You have to do your COVID test, show that you're negative, and then you can go on island. If you don't do your COVID test, you are subject to quarantine for 14 days.
Okay, good information.
It's really easy to get your tests done and get them back. Yeah. And going through the immigration, or whatever they're calling it nowadays, the checkpoint, is fairly simple. It took me literally 1 minute to get through and back down to St. Thomas with my COVID test. I just showed them on my phone and filled out paperwork, and boom, I'm back on island. Wow. And all the beaches were open, and it's beautiful. Restaurants are still serving. They're being very safe, right? And very specific as to 6 feet and masks and things like that. But
they're open.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And Pam, you're from Indiana. I have a lot of good friends from Indiana. I don't know if you know that, but like I have very like close friends that they tend to come from Indiana. They just must make good people there. That must be the thing, right? So tell us about
Yeah.
Indiana.
Yeah, so in Indiana, like much of the rest of the country, it depends on the county and locality, whether it's shut down or not. But our restrictions are, you know, I guess varied, but nowhere near the restrictions have we ever seen that Canada has, apparently.
Yeah.
And really I'd say for the most part, it's around restaurant status, whether
Around
they're
restaurant
open
status.
at all, or dine in or outside pickup or not. And that's been my experience across the country too.
Okay. Yeah, because you've been
I've
across the country. That's what we're going to talk about that
yes,
next. I think we'll go
yeah,
this direction. Okay. And so I live in Florida, and Florida's open. We're open. We do wear masks when we're in public areas that are enclosed, and we have to wear masks when we walk into a restaurant, but take them off at the table, which I think that's kind of silly, but whatever, we do that. And but it is very open. There are no restrictions whatsoever on what to buy, where to go. I don't think there is. I mean, I'm even the gyms are open, and it's interesting because I know a lot of people, but everything has been safe. So Pam went across the country. So she did domestic travel through US. Tell us how many miles and where you went. Just briefly, give us like the 2 minute pitch. Go ahead, Pam.
So yeah, I just got back from 44 days, 9,300 miles. I went basically from southern Indiana across to San Francisco, the old Route 66.
Route 66.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So
kids don't even know what that is.
yeah, so there's bits and pieces of that left.
And you went to the national parks mainly. Was that your goal? Like
Yeah,
going park
yeah.
hopping?
So, well, in part, I was seeking some wellness retreats.
Fabulous.
And then knowing that a lot of things would be closed, the national parks was my other goal. But in California, I went to Yosemite, Death Valley, Sequoia.
That's
I did
amazing.
Zion and Bryce, the Grand Canyon, lots of other national forests and smaller state parks along the way as well.
If you could think of one thing that sticks out that you wish you would have known or would have liked to have told a friend if they did the same trip as you, regarding COVID restrictions, or is there nothing? I mean, maybe there's nothing.
Yeah, there really wasn't much of anything that stopped from where I was going.
Okay.
I like an app called Road Trippers. You do have to do a lot more checking to see what's open or not when you intend to go. Museums or other public facilities a lot of times are closed. Shops have modified hours just because there's not the traffic that there would normally be there.
Wow, fascinating. Lori, tell us, you live in St. Thomas, so.
I have been going back and forth to Arizona to St. Thomas. So really that's been my travel experience, and then also throughout the United States. So it's been more going down to St. Thomas to start kind of a business venture that I've got on hold down there right now. So I basically went from Arizona, where I'm living right now, down to St. Thomas without any issues. And when I went down there in October, it was open, very easy access. The beaches were beautiful. People were friendly, no issues whatsoever. So that's been my experience. And traveling on the airplane was not that bad either. I mean, it wasn't scary. They were very specific. Make sure that you wear your mask the entire time. Everybody was very careful. They gave out hand sanitizers. And also like a little goodie bag where you can feel safe almost. So I did not in any way, shape, or form feel like I was jeopardizing my life, exposing myself to COVID, anything in my travel. So
That's great. That's great information. And so, Kelly, tell us where you went. And I know, of course, coming back, you guys definitely were quarantined in Canada, from my understanding. So go ahead and give us that info. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Basically, a group of us, and it actually ended up being about 100 of us, went down to Cabo San Lucas around Halloween. And it was a couple of us, a couple of other cruiser friends. We decided we wanted to go someplace to replace our, annual Halloween cruise.
Right.
And so we started, it was supposed to be a small group, and it ended up being like 100, but we all went down there. Down in Cabo, I definitely felt safe. But then again, we'd done some research before we even picked our destination, knowing that they had a lot of restrictions and rules and therefore safety precautions in place. They had been designated a safe destination by the WHO, all of that type of stuff. So I kind of felt safe. I'm kind of a little bit COVID sensitive as well. I work in healthcare. So, that was part of the reason why I picked it. It was interesting flying down. You could get flights down, no problem, because all of the snowbirds are going down for the winter, and they were going down early. Like my flight down to Cabo was completely full. So even middle seats.
Wow.
We still felt safe because they're piping in the disinfectant and over the air circulations, and everybody wearing the masks, the little packages they give you, the wipes, the whole type of thing. So even though we were crowded, we felt safe. Down in Cabo, they had a lot of local restrictions in place. Like you were talking about masks, everywhere was masks, except, in our little group, like when we were in the pool, nobody was wearing masks kind of
deal.
You
had to wear masks at the resort in Cabo?
You did if you went into the restaurants. It was the same kind of thing where you had to wear it going in, and then when you got to your table, you could take it off.
You took it off.
When we first got to Cabo, the restrictions were less, like they were up to 50% capacity, that type of stuff. They could serve liquor until 11:30. You had to be out at midnight.
Okay.
We got a total of 10 cases while we were there, and they went right back down into their level 1 restrictions, back down to 25% occupancy. It shutting down bars early. Like we were there for Halloween, they shut everything at like 9 o'clock or something, or at 6 p.m. So I forget it. A bunch of the bars were
perfect
closing.
time for me, because I'm out by like 8 or 9 now.
Yeah, they didn't want any big crowds. Yeah. So the biggest thing for me, and buffets. You couldn't serve yourself at buffets. They started to serve you. So biggest thing for me was flying back. They canceled my flights 4 times.
Wow.
Because they're not filling them. So although they were getting them coming down, there was none going back up. And there's only 4 airports that are accepting any international flights in Canada. It's Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal. So you have to route everything through there. So I actually got my last cancellation while I was in Cabo and had to scramble to get a flight back. And it ended up being very convoluted 2 days, Cabo to San Francisco to Vancouver, Vancouver to Winnipeg the next day. So, so that was the biggest problem for us travel wise, was that there's just no flights. And that's part of what's going on now, is that the government's saying you can leave, but you may not get back.
Wow.
Because they're canceling flights. They're not doing like they did the first
This is for Canada, just for anyone who's just joining, by the way. This is for Canadians, not for US citizens. We can get back. Okay. But, wow.
And then the quarantine is a big deal. They call you, they show up at your house.
Yes, I had a friend that I play tennis with, and she's also a dual citizen like myself, and she went back to go visit her family, but I was like, really? You think that's a good idea? And sure enough, she couldn't see them because they were coming to her house. They were tracking her. They were not allowing, I won't tell you who the person is, but I know she did sneak and see her sister outside in a park somewhere, like drug dealers. She did not hug her, but she got to see her sister. But it's shocking, the difference, because here it's just inconvenient, I would say, whereas where you are, it's a whole different world. Now we have Queen Bonnie on the line, which is Sue, and I'm gonna listen to her, and then Al, I think I have you, and I'm gonna take you too. So let me hear it, girl. How's it going?
Oh, I'm great. I'm not far from you, so I'm enjoying this, and I am dual citizen as well from Canada.
You too, huh?
Yeah.
Tell us where you went and how you felt about the safety of it, and any little tidbits of of fun facts that you wish you would have known, if any. So go ahead, you have the floor.
All right. So my husband does long haul, so I'll talk more about him.
Okay.
Because if I'm in the truck with my husband, spent 2 weeks on the road, been the same places, same everything. If I cross to Canada, they will put me in quarantine for 14 days,
Wow.
which my husband doesn't have to do.
Because he's essential.
Yes.
Ah.
So to me, that's ridiculous. So if he's not asymptomatic, he doesn't have to do a test. I've been with him, only him. Why do I have to do the same? So I haven't transferred back to Canada. I went in March. I was there in March, flew, no problems. Had people on the plane from different countries that were all coming back from like Ireland and that were traveling abroad. And it was what it was. Like I've been to Vegas. I've been on the road with him in the US.
Did you fly to Vegas or did you drive?
I flew to Vegas and I also flew to Canada.
Okay. And how did you feel with the flying to Vegas part?
It was nothing to me. Even coming back, there was a group of people going to Russia that were all sick, which to me is like, well, whatever, you partied in Vegas, it is what it is. So my husband and I just really took a lot of immune system boosters like oil oregano, but we didn't feel like we were going to die. We didn't feel like this was going to be the end of the world, if I'm allowed to say that.
Well, yeah, of course. Yes, you can say how you feel.
I wasn't afraid. I would fly now. I would have no problem with it. Traveling, I'd go on a boat. Like I don't feel that I'm that afraid of traveling.
Okay, great. Well, that's great info. Thank you so much. I'm going to take, is this Al? Al, which is, I don't see your face. Al, is that you?
I can hear you.
Hi, Al. How are you?
Just fine.
Fantastic. I'm so sorry we can't see your handsome face, you.
Well, probably looks like refried camel crap anyway, so you catch your blessings.
So, Al Silverbat, tell us where you've traveled and tell us basically, how you felt about the traveling and if there's any tips that you'd like to give anyone else. That would be great.
Went to Cabo with everybody else and had a good time there. I've also been to Cancun and Akumal, and it's pretty much the same thing over there, no problems. Actually, I'm supposed to go right at the end of the year to St. Martin, and they just recently changed where they're requiring a COVID test within 180 hours. That I'm going to Hawaii, and they're requiring a 72-hour test proving that you're having no COVID.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can't get into Hawaii. So.
Okay, very good.
It's a
That's
new
good information.
thing. There are some quick tests that you can have done real fast, but there's only four specific kinds of places that you can go and have it tested and verified, and then you just take a picture of your verification. That Perfect. And you answer about 5 minutes worth of questions, and then you're in. So that's the latest thing that seems to be going along.
And did you feel safe in
right
the plane
now.
and safe, at the resorts that you went to?
Yes, I felt safe. COVID doesn't do well with heat. So warm areas and fresh air, to me, that's all good. I wear the mask when you walk into restaurants and eat and all that. But other than that, I was doing what I please. Now, I live on the outskirts of Nashville. Nashville, this mayor shut down Nashville to the point where he's killed it, and it'll be his only term. However, on the outskirts of Nashville, it's totally different. And I played trivia every Wednesday night, and we don't wear any masks or anything like that. And so it's pretty much laissez-faire outside of Davidson County.
Okay. That's good information. That's great. And thank you so much for sharing that. Ernie finally came on. Ernie, wait, you've been traveling since the inception of COVID, like
Yes.
a wild man, and your every deal, he's traveled for like $60 cross country.
So I've been to Orlando, Memphis, Vegas, Philadelphia, I'm going back to Philadelphia in a couple of weeks.
All by plane, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, all by plane. Now, the whole middle seat open is kind of just a weird thing, but really the only people doing that were Southwest. None of the airlines ever did that. And frankly, it doesn't matter. You're only three. I mean, seriously, in any flight where the middle seat's open, you're like 2 feet away from the next human being.
Right. Yeah. I don't feel like it's a big difference myself, but a lot of people do feel better about it. I've heard from other friends.
The airlines are just really haphazard about what they enforce and how they enforce it. I mean, they may tap you on the shoulder and say, pull up your mask or not. I've seen both on flights. The airports themselves are, they've been more crowded the last month or so than they were 4 or 5 months ago. 4 or 5 months ago, you could have thrown a bowling ball down the airport in Vegas and not hit a soul.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely, some of the restaurants, some of the airport services are coming back, but they're not fully and not as late as usual, obviously. So the flights started cheap, got more expensive, and then as we are entering into this other phase, have gotten cheap again. I'm flying round trip to Philly for $70.
Okay. So you feel safe in travel or you don't? Like, I mean, when you're traveling on the plane, like, do you feel like it is safe or it isn't safe? It's just your feeling.
I don't think it's any safer than, let's say, a restaurant, except, because lots of restaurants, you can't even sit inside anymore. You have to sit outside. So is it safe? I don't think it's any more dangerous than going to a restaurant, now, I will tell you, if you go to a bar down here in Miami or a club, nobody's wearing masks once you walk in the door.
Right.
So at least on the plane, everybody's supposed to be wearing a mask and they kind of try to enforce it. So I feel safer on a plane than I do in a club on Calle Ocho.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
Very cool. So is there anything that surprised you? Anything that surprised you that you wish you would have known, like during your travels?
The one thing I have learned is to triple check everything, because the rules change from one day to the next.
Very much.
Literally. I mean, literally one day to the next, it could be, you've got this, and this, and then, no, now it's this, and that.
So to that point, though, I think I would agree completely with the fact that the rules are changing all the time. It's really difficult to keep up with all the rules. However, they seem to be able to make it work. For example, when we went to Cancun, Mexico. Direct flight, on their verbiage, we had to have 2 masks. Like, they had to have a paper mask and a cloth mask. That was in the verbiage. But then when we got there, no one was wearing anything more than a cloth mask or a paper mask, not both. So, okay, but we were prepared for that. The thing is, when we were going from Mexico to the US, all of a sudden we had to fill out this COVID form that basically said we weren't symptomatic or whatnot. And okay, fine, but they didn't tell you until you went through security and you had to get on their Wi-Fi, download the app in Spanish. Did you have this issue, Kelly? This was crazy.
Yes.
I was
that
so
would
miffed
be the one thing I
because
wish I knew.
naturally we were late, because of course I am. So I'm going to be late to my own funeral. Anyway, and I'm like, oh my God, we're going to miss but she would not let us take a paper copy. She had a paper copy, but she wouldn't let us have it. So we had to do some finagling to hurry up and read Spanish. Thankfully, my husband's a genius and can get a beer and a date in every language, and apparently pass a COVID questionnaire. But for me, it was really stressful because I don't read, and I need cheaters now to even read shit like that. So it's just like, I can't even read my phone. And I mean, I can't be the only one with these problems, right? And I was like, that was not cool.
They don't, often the people we talk to don't even know the rules that they themselves have changed.
Right. Yeah. It is. I think you have to be flexible and you do have to do your research. You can't, going through a travel agent, just a little toot there, traveled up fun. If you're going to travel, go through us so we can figure out the rules for you. But that you do have to be flexible because it is something that is changing. I want to thank you all so very much. I know it's 1:45 and I promised I wouldn't be longer than 45 minutes and I'd like to keep that promise. Lori and I are going to chat. She's going to have a charter boat. She's into eco tours in St. Thomas, which is so exciting. We love our Canadian friends, and I know that it's been harder on you probably than most of the states, actually, besides California. You're probably right there with some Californians. And all I can say is I love you, and I know it'll pass, and we're really close. So
quick tip: do not make it a rush into the airports, because they're doing that temperature check and all that. So you don't want to be hot and bothered when you hit that line. You want to
That's a
have
great
plenty
tip.
of time so your temperature isn't up.
Right. And I think probably allowing extra time is probably in general really important for us. I went 2 hours early for an international flight, which for us is usually fine because we're experienced travelers, etc. But totally needed 3 hours for an international flight this time in a direct flight. So that's a
And you
great
need a
tip.
magnifying glass to see the Mexican paperwork that they've got for you to write.
Bring your cheaters. That's your other tip.
It is impossibly small.
It is. And Pam, thank you so much for sharing your national treasure journey, because that is, I think, probably on the list of most people's journeys. And that Road Trippers app that you recommended, we're all going to download it. Too bad there's not a referral thing. I'd click your link, but thank you so much for sharing that valuable information. And Sue, I think Sue got off. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I am so appreciative of you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys later. I'm going to give my Cancun report after this. All right. I'm Shelby. You're fabulous. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Aloha, melikaliki maka.
Aloha. And don't forget, I want to connect on social with you. Facebook, Shelby Frenette, ShelbyLive.com. And we have Instagram, Solo Travel Expert. And of course, Solo Travel TV, YouTube. And LinkedIn, Shelby Frenette. I'm Shelby. You're fabulous. I'll see you on social.